the story of African Queen Abla Pokou, who sacrificed her only son for her people. Africa is a continent rich in stories and legends, marked by the epics of many heroes and heroines with fabulous destinies. These influential men and women played key roles in African history and culture, often transforming the course of events and leaving a legacy. These figures illustrate the richness of African history, each making a unique contribution to shaping the cultural and political identity of the continent. They are a source of inspiration and pride for many generations in Africa and elsewhere. Among them, there is Queen Abla Pokou, who marked the 18th century with her leading role in the emancipation of her people. She is a well-known legend in Côte d'Ivoire. Her history is also part of the Ashanti people, who cover 2/3 of present-day Ghana. Born Princess of Kumasi, Ghana around the 1700s, Queen Abla Pokou, daughter of Nyaku Kosiamoa and sister of Prince Daku, is the niece of Osei Kofi Tutu-Wai, a formidable king who was the co-founder of the Ashanti Empire. In the kingdom of Kumasi, in present-day Ghana, Princess Abla Pokou grew up under the protection of the king's priestesses, who initiated her into the protection of the kingdom and the fight against mystical forces. As an adult, she sits on the Council of Elders, where she is the youngest, which does not prevent her from becoming one of the most influential advisors in the kingdom. Calm reigned within the kingdom until 1718, the year of the king's death. On the death of King Osei Tutu, his nephew succeeded him on the throne under matrilineal law, the law of succession by maternal lineage. Indeed, among the Ashanti and other Akan peoples, the child born to the sister of a deceased king has a greater chance of succeeding the latter than the child of a brother of the said king. The succession to the throne led to quarrels and a fierce war between Daku, the brother of Abla Pokou, and his cousin Opoku-Ware, beaten in the race for the throne by Daku. In this fratricidal struggle engaged in the capital of the kingdom of Kumasi, Kongwe-Bian, a former warrior practicing witchcraft, took the opportunity to form a coup d'etat and kill the legitimate heir to the throne, Prince Daaku, brother of Princess Abla Pokou. Representing a serious obstacle to the rise of the former warrior Kongwe-Bian, Abla Pokou knows the terrible fate that awaited her if she remained, because she no longer had a brother and sole defender. Protected by a tribe of proud warriors, but also nobles of royal blood, the Lefa Hafwe set themselves up as the last bulwark of the royal family. They found themselves obliged to leave the kingdom clandestinely. The princess therefore fled to the northwest with her family, her servants, her faithful soldiers, and all those of the people who recognized themselves in her or her late brother Prince Daku. After long days and nights of walking in search of a welcoming land, the people who had been forced to leave to abandon their plantations and their lagoon full of fish found refuge near the Comoé River, located between the border of Ghana and Ivory Coast. In their escape, they decided to cross the Comoé River. According to legend, Queen Abla Pokou and her supporters found themselves blocked in their flight by the roaring Comoé River, a natural barrier between their former lands located in present-day Ghana and the territory that today became Côte d'Ivoire, whose level has risen due to winter rains. However, the pursuers are on their heels, only a few kilometers away. After a few moments of respite, the queen noticed that the river was impassable because it was too turbulent. The threat is growing closer and closer. She turned to her soothsayer to question the water spirit. As usual in such cases, the leaders consult the man who represents the power of interpretation of invisible wills. Queen Abla Pokou raises her arms to the sky and turns to her soothsayer. "Tell us what the genius of this river is asking to let us pass." And the old man answered her, Queen, the river is angry, and it will not calm down until we have given it as an offering what is dearest to us. Immediately the women hold out their ornaments of gold and ivory. The men advance with their bulls, their rams, and the other animals they had. But the soothsayer rejected all these offers and said sadly, "What we hold dearest are our sons. Your Majesty, the river is very angry, and it will not calm down until we have given it a male child of royal blood covered with 100 piles of gold." From then on, Queen Abla Pokou understood that only the sacrifice of her son could satisfy the spirits of the river. She cried before taking a step to sacrifice her only son. Then she raised the child above her, contemplated him one last time, and spoke to him saying this, "Kawaku forgives me, but I understood that I must sacrifice you for the survival of ours, because it was because of my family that they were forced to flee." The crowd was surprised and very sad for this woman of exceptional courage. No doubt, convinced the sadness from the heart would change the mind of this mother who was preparing to deliver her son unique to the river. But she was still just as determined, lifted the child above her, and looked at him one last time with eyes full of affection and revolt. She turned away and continued to advance majestically towards the river with its impressive waves. She threw the child into the roaring waves. Immediately, the troubled waters of the Comoé calmed and receded up to the knees, and the whole tribe crossed the river safely. After the crossing, the queen turns around and whispers in a sob, "Bauli," which means "the child is dead." And she cried. This is how, in memory of this child, the tribe of Abla Pokou would have been called Baule. The origin of the Baule people was based on the sacrifice of Queen Abla Pokou in the 18th century. After Pokou passed, the trees straightened up. On the other bank, the first Ashantis has already appeared. Helpless, they watched their enemies disappear into the darkness of the forest. Following this legendary passage of the Comoé, the people of Queen Pokou were divided into several branches. Queen Abla Pokou organized her suite into 8 clans: Waribo, Nzipri, Safwe, Namafwe, Aitu, Agba, and Ngban. Some went, it is said, as far as Togo. The most numerous followed the queen. They would have gone up through Dimbokoro to Sakasu, meaning place of funerals, the capital of the Baules. This is where Pokou would have settled. Once arriving in what we know today as a region of Côte d'Ivoire, the tribe will decide to begin with the funeral of the sacrificed child. If until the sacrifice, Pokou seems to have played her role of princess, withdrawn among the warriors, she reaches the highest rank of queen. She is no longer just the inspiration for the Exodus. By offering her only son, she became the queen and mother of an entire people. Through the sacrifice of her only son, Abla Pokou became the heroine of the Baule people. The child, through his innocence and his purity of soul, is the greatest sacrifice that can be made. His noble origin represented everything precious to the people, and the emotional charge of the sacrifice restores confidence to the people in the sustainability of their becoming. By offering her child, she became queen and mother of an entire people. This act of bravery and self-sacrifice made Abla Pokou an important figure in the history of the people of Côte d'Ivoire. Even today, Queen Abla Pokou remains one of the most emblematic figures of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. From Ghana to her land of exile in Ivory Coast, Queen Abla Pokou remains celebrated today in African oral and written literature. Her heroine is a courageous woman who has elevation and nobility in her feelings and her conduct. Abla Pokou corresponds in every way to this definition, and this is through the actions she carried out for the emancipation of her people. Abla Pokou is both a historical figure who existed and one of the great figures of West African mythologies. via the legends which formed from his life. Queen Abla Pokou died around 1760 in the small village of Nyamonu near Buake, which still preserves today the queen's round seat as well as sacred objects, drums, seats, and coats of arms. The story of this courageous and determined queen helps to understand the notion of sacrifice, which, through this legend, through oral transmission, has crossed borders for centuries. The film was produced by Her TV. What do you think of this movie? Leave us your comments, please. Subscribe, like, comment, and share, please.